What's up?
How's it going,
Hold up.
everybody?
Listen to that. Listen to that
I'm not sick anymore.
unadulterated, smooth Seth voice that we can
Right?
hear
That
clearly.
we
He's
that we
not
all
dying.
that we all
Oh
know
my
and love.
gosh. I'm so glad you're here, buddy. You were really struggling through the last one. You were trying to make it work and it just wasn't working. So we talked about everything but Kenobi, and now we're what, like 5-6 hours away before the finale, and I just wanted to get together with you and say hey and see if you wanted to talk a little Kenobi.
I was straight up on the edge of death last time.
Yeah, you were.
It was pretty bad. So I appreciate the accommodation. There was actually a point. So if you go back in the broadcast, there is a point where my face is literally exploding.
Oh, I noticed.
And I coughed so hard, like, so I muted myself, and then I was like off to the side here, just trying to avoid it, and I coughed so hard that I actually like flung out my sinuses. It
Gross.
was it was ridiculous. I and like, it wasn't COVID, which was probably the most upsetting thing about it. Like, I didn't get any answer as far as
You're
what
like, I'm
happened.
so sick, but it's not COVID. Damn it.
Yeah, no. Cece got the same thing I did. I got tested for the flu and it came back negative. She got tested for strep throat and it came back negative. We both got tested for COVID and that all came back negative. So we just had no idea what was happening.
You were just
We were
regular
just
sick and it sucked.
we were just coughing our lungs out. And yeah, now I'm okay. It's all is well. We're a single episode away from Kenobi. I think we're just going to talk about Kenobi, but like, I'm caught up on the boys as well, and that show's been absolutely nuts as well.
Yeah, we're gonna save that for another show because
Okay,
that's a
all
whole
right, all
nother
right, cool.
backdrop and so much going on, and I do want to talk in depth about that one.
There's a lot kicking on there, but uh, we're right here before the finale. And what would an episode of Nerfherders be? Well, actually, I don't know where I was going with that because this isn't a usual thing for us at all. But
It's
we've got a
not.
guest. We've got a guest today.
Yeah, we were. I was thinking it might just be you and me talking about episodes 1 through 5,
This is a nice
but
backdrop for that. Actually,
it
that's
is a
that's
nice
fun.
backdrop, isn't it? I know, but that's fine. We're not gonna use it because I think it was right before the kickoff. You were busy, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait for this show!" I was so antsy that me and Alan got together and talked about it.
Yep.
Uh, and then that's when we found out that it was actually starting early, and so me and him has been talking about it throughout the whole season. So I thought it might, it's only good to bring him back if he could. So yeah, welcome back to the show, Alan. What's up, man?
Hello there. Glad to
Hello
be here.
there.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome,
Yes.
sir.
Well, you were here
Welcome.
at the beginning. It's not the end yet, I guess, because we're not going to be able to talk about the finale. But I wanted to see if you
Yeah,
could
no.
pop in.
So our next episode, our final episode, flies tomorrow.
Mhm.
Alan, I haven't been first of all, I haven't talked to you in forever. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
let's kick things off. As we're saying, we're doing no spoilers here, but let's kick things off with your impressions of the show in a non-spoilery fashion so far.
Hold up. Before that, can we just who's the best Kenobi beard impersonator of this group? I think we're all doing pretty good. I think
Yeah.
it might be Alan,
I
actually.
don't know. I don't know, Josh. This is the bushiest that I've ever seen you before.
I
I
know.
think.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
My job hasn't commanded me to shave yet, so I haven't.
I've got the Revenge of the Sith beard going. You've got episode 1 of Kenobi beard going.
Oh yeah, the
Like,
living on the outskirts. Yeah.
Looking at you next to Ewan McGregor right here, you've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi beard.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you're right at that bushy level, you know.
Nice.
I've got long enough hair at this point to have my own Padawan braid. Though.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'm really going there now.
Nice. I like it. So we got the 3 stages of Kenobi.
Yeah.
Kenobi the Padawan, Kenobi Revenge of the Sith, and then living in the desert Kenobi. All right, I like it.
All we're missing is
It's
old
tickling
and
the back of my neck now.
now all we're missing is the old and gray Ben Kenobi.
Yes,
So-
that's what we need. Well, sorry
if
to
I
cut
had
you
some
off,
advance
Alan.
notice, I could have worked on that, but I've got some gray in the chin here, man.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
It's starting
You're
to come
getting
in.
You're getting it.
We'll give Ewan here another 5 years of playing Kenobi. Maybe those will. I don't know. He's got 10. He's got 10 years to go from where he's at now to full on old man. And
They could do it.
maybe not even 10, like kind of like 9 years at this point. But
Alan, I didn't mean to cut you off. What are your initial non-spoilery
hit us up.
thoughts on this show?
I've really been enjoying the show. There are a few minor things I'm like, well, that's just silly. But for the most part, I've really enjoyed every aspect of this show. I think the cast has been phenomenal. Both the people they've brought back, like Ewan McGregor and Joel Edgerton, and the new additions to the cast too, I think have done a great job, regardless of what the internet might say. And I've from episode 1, I've been surprised with the direction the show went, and I couldn't be happier with how it's going so far.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm in a very different boat.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's so. I mean, first of all, I'm not going to jump down the throat of the show at all or anything like that. But so far, what I have been seeing compared to the expectations that they themselves were laying down, especially like the show, especially Kathleen Kennedy or like anybody high up in the scene, actually everybody except for like Dave Filoni, who has been kind of like the godfather of Star Wars at this point. They're really hyping this thing up, and so far not living up to that expectation for me. The good thing that I'm seeing out of it though is that, like, first of all, like I'm seeing like a huge amount of people who are talking about it breaking the canon into pieces and just absolutely shredding it. I'm not seeing that, honestly. It really doesn't feel that way. There's a hell of a lot that could go on within 20 years, and I know the line in A New Hope that they're referring to that was which established the canon that they're supposedly breaking with this show. Again, 20, even 10 years is a long friggin' time. So I mean, who knows what level of interactions were there between that point in time. So when everybody was like, "Oh, Vader's going to be in this show. Oh, Vader and Obi-Wan are going to have it's going to be the rematch of the." I don't remember what the exact vernacular was, but I remember as like a tagline for this show, they were talking about the Obi-Wan Vader rematch. And so far we haven't seen that, because it's obviously they're going to save something like that for the finale. At least I hope so, because if we get what we've had so far now, it's like there certainly hasn't been an epic rematch. But the bits and pieces that I've seen would have been far more interesting if they hadn't laid out any expectations whatsoever and had also kind of built this show as a as something other than what it actually as something more accurate to what it is. And I feel like that might have had something to do with the script being rewritten and maybe not changing around too much of the marketing materials, because they knew we were going to watch this stuff anyway. But so far I'm kind of sitting around like the 6 to 7 out of 10 range, but that could change with the finale based on how things go.
Well, if you were to go off what Twitter has said, this show is a crapshoot. Everybody is terrible in it. It's broken canon so many times. It doesn't even make sense. It's a shit show and everybody knows it. I don't agree with that. I think there are some writing issues. There's some things that, comes off a little wooden, but overall I have definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed it much more than Boba Fett. They've put a lot more work into this series than they have on some other series that have been on Disney Plus, rightfully so. The direction that they chose to go to, I was not expecting. But when you're telling me that there's a show that Kenobi is going to leave the planet that he is supposed to be on to protect Luke, there's only so many things that could bring him off that planet. So them doing this story makes sense. There's a lot of things that happen that I wasn't expecting to happen. But yeah, I have yet to see something that breaks canon. And all the things that were like the obvious things. Oh, how could this be when so-and-so is in Rebels, or this happened here? My answer was, well, it's only this episode. We've still got X amount of episodes left. Let's just wait to see if they're as dumb as you're calling them to be. And so far,
Right.
that hasn't been the case. So I I think I will say, without getting into spoilers, that this show, I've noticed the limitations of the volume a lot more than previous shows. The volume, for those that don't know, is this fantastic alternative to a green screen. It's projected on. It gives a more real sense. They build the set around it, and instead of all these actors looking at a sea of green, they can actually feel a little more like they're actually in whatever the scene is. And we've seen it work wonders, but I have seen certain scenes in this show where it's like, okay, the reason it's like this is because they're filming on the volume and not on an actual set. And I think that that's been a little more apparent. But overall, I think there's some issues, but I have really enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to the finale.
Real quick, just to touch on the volume aspect of filming,
Mm-hmm.
I think that part of that is the show. Most of the show was filmed in London, so this was a UK production. So if they have a volume over there that they used, it might not be as much, or it might be new people using it, so they might not be as familiar with it. But I'm under the impression that they, for what they were filming in the UK, was all like constructed sets, and the volume stuff was like pickups and stuff that they shot back in the US. But this, for the most part, a lot of the production for this was done in the UK. So I don't know how much of that is the volume.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I think my biggest pet peeve so far is with Star Wars in and of itself, and this was actually a really big concern around. Oh, look at that! Somebody's at the door. I don't care. Let's mute that phone. This was a concern back when the sequel trilogy was announced. In response to everybody seeing how the prequel trilogy laid out, and it was like the overuse of computer generated imagery. I'm starting to get a little bit tired of it at this point. So I actually like it. It felt like there wasn't quite as much of the volume used. It felt like there was more green screen here. The visuals didn't feel quite as natural as like, even in the Mandalorian. Like the Mandalorian felt a little bit more real. There's definitely certain scenes where you could tell, like no question at all. But something that we're seeing in Star, I mean, it's unavoidable when you're in the sci-fi genre. There's just certain things that you're not going to be able to do naturally. But when they were using green screen, or when they were using the volume, it did seem a little bit more obvious. And then when they weren't, it felt like it wasn't on a foreign planet or anything like that. Like it felt like it was in a real place. And there's a couple moments where it is sort of immersion breaking, but to the point where it's like a nitpick. Sure. I really have to like force myself to look at it that way in order to pull that stuff out of there. But visually, other than that, visually, like I'm loving the cinematography in this series so far. Beautifully shot, and the silent storytelling has been excellent throughout this one. The stuff where it's not going to be filled with like a crap load of exposition, which I really like. Like there hasn't been a lot of that. So far, like a lot of it has been visual storytelling. They haven't had like the monologue out of any of the characters kind of explaining what their points are, which at this point in the series I would have expected to run into already. And the fact that we haven't had that, and it has been mostly silent visual storytelling and the occasional flashback and some nostalgia baiting out there, honestly, but it's Star Wars. There's no way we weren't going to get any of that. Just the way that the show has been filmed, composed, edited, like I'm loving that, and the music choices again.
The music's been great.
Star Wars almost always does a great job with music choice. I can't think of a Star Wars production where the music really broke me out, except for that the dubstep robot shit going on for the Dark Troopers in Mandalorian season 2. I think that was the only time where I was just like,
That's
I'm
right. There
I
was
don't
some
know if I'm
dubstep
really
in
on
there.
board here. But
Ludwig
yeah, other than that,
Johansson,
we're in good shape.
Ludwig Johansson let Childish Gambino into the studio that day and just lost control.
Don't tell me that. I love Childish Gambino.
It's like he was getting texted by Skrillex pretty much the entire time.
Yeah,
He'd be like, maybe you should do this.
Okay. Well, let's see here. Are there any other non spoiler?
I guess real quick, without if we can talk about it without getting to spoilers, Seth, what were the expectations put out that you felt the show hasn't met? Because I did my best to avoid a lot of the marketing for this. Like I saw a few trailers. I knew who was going to be in it from interviews. What were some examples of things that you were expecting from the marketing that you didn't get from the show?
So a big part of it is because I followed the marketing early on. I don't know why, because normally I'm the same way. I'm trying to avoid that stuff. I don't want to catch in on that. But for some reason, every single time there was a story about this show, I had to click on it. I don't know what happened. Now, there was apparently a substantial rewrite of the script here, because it was too dark, and that made me feel like maybe they were only going to tone it down just a little bit, and that's not what happened. It seems like they toned it down quite a bit.
Okay.
See, I remember you telling me that. I've never seen that. I saw the rewrite because it was too much like the first season of Mandalorian, but I never saw the too dark stuff.
It was a rumor site, so I don't know. Like I said, like these might be false expectations. That's why I'm not like counting that against it in my review. Like I have to watch every single show that I like. If I see any bit of marketing beforehand, I have to watch every single show like it's a fresh, like this, very similar to my Halo review.
Sure.
You know, like we went into that show knowing a shitload about the Halo universe. At least I did. Like I played the games, I had read some of the digital media, and
you couldn't help it. You couldn't help but feel a certain way
when you watch all the seasons of Red versus Blue. Like I mean, just
which I've been doing over the last week
into your brain.
Yes,
like there's some of the stuff was just unavoidable.
My brother, on the reverse of that, never played Halo, never watched Red versus Blue, watched that show and called me last night. It was like, this show is amazing. He thought it was great. So
see, I told you that was how it was going to be. And like, I was like, if it's an unestablished universe to somebody, they might have a good time with it.
Yeah.
But you and me did bash Halo pretty hard.
We did.
I wish I could have been there for you because I would have joined you.
Halo was far more of an offender than Obi-Wan has been so far. And
I would hope
honestly,
so.
my biggest gripe is my biggest gripe at this point has been originality points, because I'm seeing some odd, not even odd, it's like uncanny similarities to some other properties at this point inside the Star Wars universe. And it might be a nitpick too, but once you've seen it, you kind of seen it, and since they've already hinted towards it, we'll see what happens. But I don't want to go into more detail than that until we start getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I would say that it is toned down. I mean, it is definitely a Disney Plus family friendly show. However, I feel like this show has darker tones than, say, Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett, they took from, the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunter to Mr. Zen, I don't want to be a gangster, like and even to the point where the actor himself has come out and said, guys, he needs to be ruthless again. I think he realizes that nobody wants a sequel to that show, and he's like, the only way we can get a sequel to the show if we convince people that he's going to be ruthless again. And I agree, because I did not like pacifist Boba Fett.
We were ready for Tony Montana. We got Tony Robbins. It was a real robbery, and I hated it.
Yeah, but I do think that there's some adult themes in this. There's a lot of PTSD going on. There's when when certain characters come on screen, it can get violent and a little scary at times. So I think they toned it down, but I think they could have toned it down a lot more. And It's kind of like
if they had toned it down any further than where they were at, there'd be riots at the door.
sure.
Right?
Okay.
No.
And I think they are in a box. They're in a tight box of, we've got so much other stuff that surrounds the story. We can't go too crazy with the plot because then they are bound by canon, and this is something that Seth, you've talked about, that you want Star Wars that's thousands of years in one direction or the other, so it's not bound by all these canon rules and all these restrictions. And this show definitely is bound by a lot of things, and so I imagine their creativity level was strained to some degree with coming up, with an original plot.
Well, that's more or less my point, is that there is availability to tell original stories outside of the Star Wars canon, but even inside of the Star Wars canon where we're at, we've seen them do it. We've seen them do that where there's no references to any of the original characters, and we've seen them do it well. We've got a very rich established history of them doing that. We've got a good established history of them doing it with original characters, just in the animated properties, and staying within those boundary lines, and still being able to tell maybe not the most unique stories in the world, but unique to the Star Wars universe in and of itself. I mean, especially around the Clone Wars era, we saw them pulling from all sorts of different eras of inspiration. We're seeing a lot of that in this series so far as well. But there's particular scenes that I'm talking about where it almost feels like a direct ripoff of something else that we've seen. It's like, hey, that's been done already, so my interest in it waned completely. But let's jump into spoiler talk so I can actually
Alan, did you have any final non-spoiler talks?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Give me 1 second here.
So we're going to give you guys a full warning before we even throw the backdrop up here.
warning.
We are going into spoiler territory now. So if you're not caught up, if you're waiting to watch the show so you can binge the entire thing, I don't know why you'd be here in the first place. So you shouldn't even watch a no spoiler review if you haven't seen any of it yet. But
okay.
But if you're wanting to avoid spoilers, you close out now because we're moving on now.
Yeah.
All right, we are now in the spoiler zone.
Nah, there ain't shit for spoilers in here. All right, fair enough.
But still, I mean, unless they haven't watched past the first, 10 minutes of the first episode. But
so yeah, can we talk about that first? Because Josh and I spent an hour talking about theories about this show and where it was going to go.
And then we're going to go back to that. I have that article pulled up. We're going to go back through those and see which ones. And this was not among them.
It was not among them. We texted each other like, okay, did not see that coming. Which was
Leia. So Reddit specifically had a script where Leia was involved. I can't remember the article. I can't remember if it was a leaked script, but it was a Reddit self-post, and it had the text laid out.
You went deep, and you normally do not go deep.
I didn't even go deep. It showed up on my fucking front page. I couldn't even avoid it. I didn't even have to scroll. Pages. Who scrolls to page 2 on fucking anything these days? No, it was on my fucking front page of Reddit as soon as I was there, and it was talking about them dropping down the script. Now, the point that you had where they were like, this might be too similar to Mandalorian was kind of part of that, of that same premise where they're like, okay, well, it's apparently Obi-Wan is going to be helping out Leia in the series, and they wanted to get away from that. And the reason I didn't,
I would have thought it would be Luke. I would thought it'd be little Luke, before, he's too young to remember or whatever,
Maybe, but we knew that Luke and Obi-Wan had some interactions. It's clear that at this point that hadn't happened yet.
Old Ben Kenobi? Yeah.
Yeah. It was like he doesn't look like an old Ben. Well, I mean, to Leia he does, but he doesn't look like an old Ben to anybody quite at this point yet. But yeah, there was a Redditor who was talking about a possible script leak where Obi-Wan had to rescue Leia. A young Leia, and I was just like, oh, okay. So when that came up, I was not shocked in the slightest. I wasn't disappointed though either. This wasn't one of the things that had led me to a different expectation because the marketing didn't talk about this at all. So kudos to them. We didn't see anything about that. They tried to keep it secret. I wish that I hadn't seen this leak, but irregardless of that, Leia is actually my favorite part of this show.
She's great.
She's
I
done a
really
killer
like
job.
her.
Like, I looked up her actress. She was actually Girl from Bird Box.
Oh, it's
which
been
is
a minute since I've seen that. I
which is
totally
a scary movie that
blanked
I've
that.
actually seen. This is fucking
Yeah,
crazy. If anybody knows my history with the horror genre,
I gotta admit, when they first started showing Alderaan, I was more excited to see if they'd bring back Jimmy Smits,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they did. And once
Yep.
they did, I was like, okay, I'm sold. I think that Jimmy Smits being in the scene with Leia sold me on Leia that much more. But I've appreciated her. You know, I think we all know that child actors in anything, in a show, in a movie, they could be great, they could be terrible. We talked about WandaVision children versus Doctor Strange children, and how maybe even the directing failed them because those kids were okay in WandaVision, but they kind of sucked in Doctor Strange.
Right.
It's a mixed. You're really rolling the dice anytime you put a kid on screen, especially a kid that's not Macaulay Culkin in his prime. And so I've been impressed with this gal. She has comedic timing. She
She's got a great emotional range.
Yes.
She's got a great sass attitude character
She
that she can
does.
play.
She can't run, but I think.
Well, apparently neither can the people trying to
I know.
capture her.
And every time the 2 chase scenes that she was in is some of the stuff I was referring to about the volume, because the scene in the city where she's running and ducking through things, I'm like, this had to have been on the volume because it's so tight in a big open square, and we're just honing in on these couple little things. So when she's not running, I think she's great, and I've really appreciated her. That could have really just tanked the show if they got some kid that just get her off the screen. Oh my gosh.
She runs like a princess who's trying to figure out where she parked her car in the parking lot.
But she's the kid that
like,
goes
it's around
playing
here
in
somewhere.
the woods. She should be able to run. She's the climbing kid, and I'd rather be in the woods than wear dress up in itchy clothing.
I'll tell you right now, man, I can climb like a motherfucker. Like, I was a lineman for a while. I can climb. You have me run more than a block, I feel like I'm gonna die. So I mean, okay. I can give you a dead sprint for about 5 feet, and then it's over.
I think the big thing is Jimmy Smits never told her about Space Flea. So
yeah,
that was a not unwelcome celebrity cameo that I think. The unfortunate thing is that it's going to fly over most fans' heads.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people who just had no fucking idea who he was. He was just another henchman in space. And we're like, nope, that's one of the greatest bass players of all fucking time.
But
he was I don't give a fuck about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but Flea is an amazing
and then you get the people like, oh, that's the guy from Back to the Future 2 and 3.
Like, yeah.
Right.
So you set this up, Alan. What did you think about Leia?
I think she's phenomenal. Watching the first 2 episodes with my brother the first night, I just turned to him and said, why did they put our niece in this show? Because the sass level is exactly what I get from my 6-year-old niece. And since then, like, I kind of like see Leia as my niece in the show, which is kind of weird, but like I love her interactions with Obi-Wan. I think the actress is doing a great job with the performance, minus the chase scenes. And there were just small moments between her and Obi-Wan that like just pull at my heartstrings, that I think the chemistry between the two of them really makes this storyline stand out from the storyline of Mandalorian and Grogu, where you don't really get those interactions. You get Baby Yoda looking up at a Mandalorian suit. Right. But you don't really get like the emotional moments, like, "Are you my real father?" And like,
there's moments in there.
He asked if he's her real father, and he says, "I wish I was." I loved that moment. I loved it. I thought the emotion, the weight of that was great. I hated the Twitter reaction. There's a prominent Star Wars Twitter account that was like, "This show is bullshit. It just suggested that Kenobi had feelings for Padme." And no, it did not. Nothing
to be fair, he did. To be fair, he did, but not romantic feelings. Like
I read that as he feels for her, knowing that she knows, that she doesn't know her mother. He had a friendship with her mother, and he wishes things were better for her than she's the the child that's hiding from her father and everything. Like I read it that way, not God, I wish I had fucked Padme. That's not what the scene was supposed to be.
It was very apparent that his reaction to that was very much, I wish I was, because your real father is a bit of a cunt to kids, as we have seen. No, he like that scene especially, like if you haven't seen Clone Wars, like that scene would not have had quite as much of an impact, because like that kind of like gave some validation to the people who had only ever seen the prequel series that Obi-Wan actually did understand, like in the Clone Wars, it's very well established that Obi-Wan was very aware of the relationship between Padme and Anakin. He knew how much they meant to each other, and Padme meant a lot to them. Like they were friends for a very long time. And in a lot of really tough shit, like shared trauma, like there's all sorts of crazy shit that they had gone through with her. And so like it very much felt like Leia is partially like he would treat her like a daughter of his own. Like it was like, hey, this is kind of my niece. Anakin was like my brother, and like he just wishes that she could have had a real father who she did not have to be hidden from. Like, and that emotional weight was great, and you can see that it was just another bit of PTSD that's just being hammered into poor Kenobi throughout this series. It was like realizing that Anakin's alive and reliving the horrors of that, having to hide his daughter at all hope while probably still being crazy anxious about leaving his son on Tatooine without any protection of any kind, and then just constantly being thrown into the rigmarole of just like this is insane. I shouldn't even be out and about right now. Like I should not be out of hiding. And it just, yeah, the interactions that those two have had have been excellent, and I was only slightly saddened by how it was such a nitpick, but the way that their music didn't like swell up when he rescued her from the chamber, and she was like, "You came back for me." I was just like, "Okay, fucking composer, that's your moment right there to try and make me cry." And they didn't do it.
Yeah,
like they didn't even try. They kept the suspense up there. But yeah, like this to me, like kind of like solidifies why Leia in A New Hope would reach out to Obi-Wan Kenobi and be her only hope. It was like, because beforehand, like if he didn't know anything, you'd be like, Leia has no fucking idea who he is other than he is an old war buddy of her father. Like as of A New Hope, that's all that we would assume that she knows about him. Like this actually shows that it's like, yeah, she has a reason to trust him with her life and with the lives of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so if anything, to me, this was canon reaffirming.
Yeah. And I think we talked a bit about people talking about a line of dialogue break, like from A New Hope, that this show breaks canon for.
I sense something, a presence I have not felt since.
Oh, is that the line?
There's a Darth Vader line.
No, I think Alan's talking about Leia's line. Is that what you're talking about?
The message to Ben Kenobi with R2. Like, I think if anything,
look up the actual dialogue.
If she's sending a message to this Jedi on Tatooine, she wouldn't want to acknowledge that he was the Jedi who rescued her, because I'm sure somewhere in the Empire's records they have that a Jedi rescued Leia Organa at one point. So I think it kind of makes sense that she might know who he is and just play it off, because later on in it you have Ben Kenobi, where is he? Like that moment. So that's what I thought. I think the Vader line, that doesn't really break. Like, how does that break canon? Because
that was the one that was quoted in a lot of posts where people were just lighting up about the series coming out, and like that reaction to the most epic rematch ever. Like that was one of them. It's like, yes, the Leia message was in there too. There was no shortage of vitriol and bullshit hate about this show coming out when social media decided to get a hold of it.
Yeah.
and it was
But
sad.
it was mostly uninformed or uneducated or assumptions that went into every single plot hole. I swear but it's with every fandom. Every time anything comes out, someone says plot hole, and 9 times out of 10 they don't understand the definition of what a plot hole is. So
Honestly,
I've yet to
sometimes
see
I don't
something.
even know if they're being real about it. I think they're just trying to stir shit up because it's
I'm
like
sure.
Yeah,
it gets some
you-
attention.
You definitely get shit posters out there. One thing
yeah,
I'll say
for
about the epic rematch of the century is there's concept art that Lucasfilm officially released for this show that shows Vader and
Not looking at
Obi-Wan,
that.
dueling in a place that we haven't seen really on this show yet. So I'm hoping that shows up in the episode tomorrow.
So maybe the finale.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most epic rematch was in Rebels, and it already happened. It was between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and like
yeah.
it was awful short.
That's a whole nother.
It was awful
conversation.
short, but the gravity of that was so important.
Sure. I want to talk about, and then I do want to go back to this. I have the CBR article pulled up so we can have some more focused talk and then talk about anything else afterwards.
So you two went over this as part of like your kind of like pre-show thing?
Yeah.
It was an article called 10 Obi-Wan Kenobi theories we hope come true. So I do want to pull that up, and then we can talk. I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to share it on the screen, and then we can talk a little bit about them as we go through them. Let me see here. There we go. Oh, look at that. We worked perfectly. So awesome.
Isn't CBR one of the sites that you've warned people to stay away from?
No. CBR is more reasonable.
No, we got it covered. Is the
we
one
got
that
it
you
covered. I
like,
can't stand.
blows,
Or
right?
comic. Or so this is CBR is comic book resources or something. There's cosmic book that's terrible, but CBR is usually a little more reliable.
Okay.
And I think when it comes to like fan theories, all of these sites can
Right.
be valid to a point because it's not like they're the word of.
I can't control
Dave
what's
Filoni
over here,
himself.
so
Yeah.
I'm sorry if there's something spoilery over here. I apologize. I can't control it. Let's go down to, and we can talk a little bit about these. If there's nothing really to talk about, we can push through it. The first one was Obi-Wan removes himself from the Force. I wouldn't say we saw anything to say that he's actually removed himself from the Source.
Not on purpose.
Force, but we have seen that he hasn't used it in 10 years and he's way rusty. And just that first time of him reaching out to save Leia, I was like, yes. Like like he had to work. He was out of breath afterwards, and he's been gaining it back throughout the series. But I did like seeing he's not confident in himself.
Yeah.
He told Jimmy Smits to find somebody else.
That was probably the most effective way to lead into this series, because when you think about Obi-Wan Kenobi, you think about him as one of the greatest Jedi who ever lived. And so to have him be in a situation like this, Obi-Wan Kenobi up against like the entire empire of like catching him and being a problem, or any Inquisitor, your first thought is, well, he's going to fuck him up. Like, I'm not worried about that at all. So they really needed to establish some high level of vulnerability for him. Otherwise, I don't know that the gravity of this show would actually exist in the manner that it does.
Yeah. Seth, any thoughts on 10.10?
That was me, Alan.
Yeah,
it's Alan's turn.
No, I think it did.
I think they did
a good job. Yeah,
that's what I meant.
I think they kind of implied that he has, not by choice, like he's so rusty with the Force. Like the midichlorians are starting to wake up by the time you get to episode 5. So I think there's a little bit of validity to this theory, but not like Luke cutting himself off completely from the Force by choice.
Right. It's the beards, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just being blinded by the beards, and I'm just calling you all by different names. 9. Obi-Wan defeats Vader again. Granted, we haven't seen the finale, but I do want to talk about Obi-Wan and Vader first off. I think the end of episode 2, again, a lot of stupid people on Twitter are like, what? He knew that Vader was alive because he knew that he was Vader. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but Kenobi knew that Kenobi knew the name Vader, before the final fight. He had seen the footage of him being knighted Darth Vader. But
Palpatine calls him Vader in the
right,
in the
but then
hologram.
he left him to die, so he didn't know Vader was alive.
He didn't know he was
Mustafar,
alive,
right?
Yeah,
and
so
it's
that
not
isn't
like
breaking canon.
And it's not like Tatooine receives a internet connection for Darth Vader tweets to come out or anything like that.
And
It's
he's not looking either.
Vader is not out there making a huge name for himself. He's rumored at that point, but not on Tatooine. Like Tatooine's out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Obi-Wan isn't opening up space Twitter every day. He's hanging out in a cave for 10 years. So
there's obviously like a news, like there's a news network of some kind, but I highly doubt anything involving Vader would show up on there. It would basically just be like Empire activities. And even then he'd have to be in like a pretty populated area of Tatooine to see something like that. And that is very clear that that's something that he just does not do if he doesn't have to.
Yeah. And I know that Obi-Wan finding out that Anakin / Vader is alive was something that they did in Legends as well, because a certain YouTuber who I theorize is also the one you're talking about on Twitter made a video about they did this better in Legends, and I hit the unsubscribe button because I'm tired of it, like just seeing his thumbnails.
I love that. I thought that was a perfect end capper for that episode. You could see the fear on his face. You could see the PTSD on his face. And then he literally says Anakin, and it cuts to BAFTA tank Vader. And which, by the way, I'm done with BAFTA tanks. Like, just lay off the BAFTA tanks. Holy shit. It's gotten into a fetish level.
All right.
With Disney Plus.
BAFTA tanks are basically just Star Wars' version of a hospital.
Okay, but literally we've seen them so much.
Like, I know they were really on top of it in fucking
Boba Fett,
and
they've featured him in like several episodes in this show.
Prior to that, it showed up in Empire Strikes Back, and there were so many people who were like, "Well, what are those things?" It's like, "Oh, that's just where Luke heals in Empire." It's like, "Okay, fine." It's like,
Kathleen, the next Star Wars show is going to be a docu-series about the creator of the BAFTA tank. And it's going to be 10 episodes long.
It's going to be about the universal healthcare system and why BAFTA is so overpriced.
No, it's going to be a BAFTA clinic, and every episode somebody new comes in, and the BAFTA tanks triggers the flashbacks.
Oh yeah. There you go. It's the BAFTA. Anyway, going on the Vader, the fights actually. First fight, people were like, it's terrible. I liked it. I liked the fear. I liked the Kenobi unsure of himself, and I like Vader in this. We all know Vader could just murder anybody if he wanted to. So the fact that he doesn't just tear Obi-Wan to shreds, it's because he doesn't need to. Like, you can tell he wants Obi-Wan to suffer. He can tell Obi-Wan is suffering on an emotional and psychological level. He doesn't need to chase after him. Even that when he brought him down and burned him just a little bit, he wasn't even burning his whole body. He was just burning like the side of him just to give him a taste. And he's like, your pain has just begun. I mean, he was clearly planning on taking his time. So all this stuff about he shouldn't have let him go. It felt like he wanted to make it last longer.
And ruthlessly killing people in the crowd before even like finding out where Obi-Wan is, just to like draw an emotional response out of him.
Just choking people, and he
people
did it while looking.
Necks.
He looked in Kenobi's. He did that one person, and then his head turns to where he felt Kenobi was, just to be like, "Do you see this? Do you see me doing this?" I loved it. It.
Yeah, Vader in the show, like, I was a little concerned about Hayden being in the suit, but I think he's doing a great job with the walk and his performance as Vader in the suit. I think he's doing a great job.
Thankfully, we still have James. Thankfully, we still have James Earl Jones doing the voice. That was confirmed to a certain point. Yes.
Yeah, because they're doing the AI thing that they did with Mark Hamill for Luke.
But I have seen, and let me see if I can pull it up. I have seen behind the scene pictures of 2 other people in the Vader suit.
I mean, I
So-
think there's probably stunt performers too, but I know Hayden's doing some of it.
But is it like a Mando thing where,
Probably.
Can't imagine he's in there all the time.
I
Like,
can't imagine
the
why he'd
dude's-
be in there at all. Like,
Well, because he was
why
insistent.
would he ever need to be?
Well, he was insistent to be in the suit in episode 3, and I think the fact that they brought him back is part of the reason to get him in the suit.
Okay.
So
It's like I feel like there is a certain mannerism that would carry by somebody who's stepping back into a role that they've been through.
yeah,
Because like this Vader is so close to the Vader that he played at the end of Revenge of the Sith, to where it's not a huge leap for him to jump back in there and kind of have like that commanding presence, but still having like even when I was watching this with Cece, like she was just talking about how fucking scary Vader just is inherently as a character. It's just like, yeah, we wanted them to capture that again. It's really good that they were able to still.
And I think we'll talk more about that later, but I agree. I think they've done a great job with that. In terms of this, I think it would make sense if there's a final fight where Obi-Wan does win, because then that would just tie into their conversation in A New Hope, where he's like, when you left me or whatever, he comes back to beat him again. But clearly that first fight, Obi-Wan lost and barely survived.
I think he's going to win by getting out alive. I don't think he's going to have Vader on his knees or anything like that. But I'm not so much looking forward to the fight as I am looking forward to the conversation, because in this most recent episode, when they tried to de-age them and did kind of a shit job.
Did they try to de-age?
They tried. I didn't say they succeeded.
What happened to that Marvel de-aging money? I mean, they could use some of that.
They got the guy from YouTube to fix Mark Hamill. I was like, I don't know what the hell they did
already
with that guy.
YouTube has fixed episode 5. Because
I hope they didn't fire that guy. So you should have kept him on. But the conversation that they were having during that scene was like pupil and teacher again. It's like, I feel like that was kind of like foreshadowing, like that's kind of what's gonna happen again. And I'm really looking forward to that, because that was a nice moment if you could get around like the horrible visual.
Alan,
I will say, for being 20 years later, Hayden didn't look that bad.
Yeah, you could see the wrinkles on his head. There was some people saying, guys, they could have done more, but people don't want that. They want to see more of today's Hayden Christensen getting some screen time. And I guess I could see that. I think they still could have smoothed things out a little bit. Either way, I liked the scene. I liked seeing Anakin's aggression, his overconfidence, and once again a lesson from Obi-Wan, and foreshadowing. I think Seth's right. I think the final fight could go down very similar and a similar lesson. But it definitely felt like, and we'll talk about that later, but it felt like that fight was also foreshadowing another fight that was in that episode, and seeing how Anakin has changed over time. But
even at the end of it, though, it felt like he had still had some restraint. Like Anakin's still kind of going through some sort of internal battle about this.
Yeah,
like at least that seemed like what they're hinting towards. But without seeing how they go further, I don't know what to expect.
Let's breeze through the rest of these. Qui-Gon Jinn returns as a Force ghost.
Well,
they mentioned him a couple times. They mentioned him a couple times in the first episode, but they haven't since. In the first 2 episodes, he calls out to him, but they haven't since. Do you think there's room in the finale where we at least hear his voice?
If there's an episode where they're going to have cameos, it's going to be this final one. And I'm calling it in the area. We're going to see Liam Neeson, and there's a very good chance that we're going to see Ahsoka.
Do you think we'll see Liam Neeson? Because we have heard he's coming back for an animated show. Do you think what are your odds, Seth and Alan, that we see him versus hear him?
More than 50%. I'm saying 70-30 for seeing him in Force Ghost mode.
Okay.
I don't think canonically we can see him as a Force Ghost, but I think
I've heard that argument.
Oh, correct. Right. Yeah. Because he didn't find a way to actually physically manifest the ghost side. Okay. Yeah. So no, we'll definitely hear his voice. They'll definitely communicate. But yeah, it's actually physically seeing a Force ghost. Yeah. I forgot. Like they explained that in Clone Wars that he wasn't able to find a way to actually get his ghost to show up.
And he can't learn that after the fact.
Correct.
It's something that you have to do in preparation of your death beforehand before you can jump over there. I'll have to rewatch that season of the Clone Wars because they dip into it over like maybe 3 to 5 episodes. I can't remember how many there were.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Continuing on, other Jedi outside of Obi-Wan appear. Now I know when Alan and I were talking about this, we mentioned what's the actor?
Camille Nanjiani,
and how the trailers seem to hint that he was a Jedi. I love
might
the
have been
fact that he
it might have
turned
been a
out
troll.
not to be a Jedi.
That might have just been a straight up troll.
I really liked. I like his character. Sometimes I'm like, I hate comic relief characters, but I do like his character. It's just enough, and I liked that he was under the guise of a Jedi and using that to profit off. That kind of felt like that somebody would do that, like a Better Call Saul and and Jedi type thing.
But I also like that they brought him back later on, and I'm sure we'll see him again in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
But just even in episode 5, the little bits that they gave him to do, like it was a nice
babysitter. Yeah,
it was a nice breath of fresh air having him come in.
And we did see one Jedi. And oddly enough, when he died, they hung him up in a way that looked like he was comfortable up there. Did anybody else see that? Like they hung him by every other way than his neck, just to hang the body up there. I guess
that might have been a Disney move. They might
had to have been.
They might have just not wanted to see a dude in a noose.
I mean, to be fair, we have seen more than just that one Jedi, though. They're just all in that crypt in the Inquisitor's base,
right? It's like
are those all Jedi? Is that what that was supposed to be?
I imagine it seems like it seems like an Inquisitor's
Jedi on Tatooine.
It seems like an Inquisitor's trophy room.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He might not have been as valuable of a target, or that might have been Reva just kind of like being a little rash, and wanting to send a message to everybody.
I also wonder if that's Vader's trophy room, because there is a youngling there from the Jedi Temple, so it's possible.
Yeah, I did. When
Vader's
I saw that, I was
room.
like, "Why is there only one of them?" Yeah, it could be a trophy room instead of just all the Jedi we've killed are here, because I imagine that would need to be a lot bigger.
Because if you look at
Fortress Inquisitoris is a big building, there might be more halls in there.
Sure.
And if you look at their one conference room, there are lightsabers laid out as decoration around the room. So
okay, and we did see a lot of lightsabers left behind through the trafficking thing. That was neat.
And to be fair, those might not all be dead Jedi. Those might have been Jedi, or like we need to leave this shit behind.
Oh yeah, it felt like they were here. It was like this tote is for lightsabers. This tote is for cloaks. The two things that make a Jedi. Leave them here.
Fun fact: they just used the Lost and Found from Galaxy's Edge for that shot of the lightsabers.
I like it.
All right, we need to burn through these a little faster, because this next one is BS. There's no way this one's happening.
Okay, Commander Cody is still at the Empire's disposal.
No,
I don't think so.
I think Commander Cody.
The cameo.
I think if Cody shows up in anything, he's going to show up in the Bad Batch season 2.
Yeah, but I did like seeing him. I did like seeing Tamara Morrison have the little cameo. That was cool.
Yeah, the homeless clone was great.
Yeah, Yoda is communicating with Obi-Wan. I don't see it happening.
Possibly, but that's a reach at best.
Yeah,
I told Alan that Yoda was going off into what is it? What am I trying to say? Exile. I just don't see them talking.
Yeah. I don't see them interacting.
I did see someone just throw out there, like, what if Reva goes to Tatooine to attack Luke and Yoda's there to protect him? And I was
don't see him leaving. No.
I don't see him leaving either. It's like that'd be cool. It's not going to happen. But I like the way they were thinking. It's like, it's a good idea, but no, like, not going to happen.
I think if Yoda shows up in the show at all, it's because Qui-Gon talked to him also, and they want to throw him in there as a cameo. But that is like there's like a 2.5% chance of that happening.
Yeah.
Fans see it as a 50-50 shot. I don't know what fans you're talking about, but I don't think that's.
They asked 2 fans, and one of them said yes, and the other one said no. And it was just in the office where they were writing this story.
Yeah.
I think there's a better chance of seeing Grogu in this than there is Yoda. So
Interesting.
Maybe in another Purge flashback.
Darth Maul crosses paths with Obi-Wan once again. Nope. I just can't see it. We all agree that's not happening.
not in this version of the show. In the original version of it, before the rewrites, he was going to. But
I could certainly see a cameo or an end credit scene where he shows up and somebody is like, "Hey, Obi-Wan was spotted on this planet." Are they like pull up like a bounty poster of him or something like that
to
and be
tie
like, hey,
in
this guy's still alive,
and
he'd be
Rebels.
Like, "Oh shit!" But them physically being with each other, no way.
3, Obi-Wan the Watchful Protector. I remember saying this was dumb. Anyway, he is the Watchful Protector. We all know that.
Yeah,
that's a dumb
kind
thing.
of given.
Barriss Offee as an Inquisitor.
That would have been pretty friggin' sweet, but I can't remember what happened to her at the end of her.
I don't think anybody can, but I mean, sure, but it would have been a throwaway thing.
I think she was just imprisoned.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's too obscure of a character, even amongst Clone War fans, to where I don't think it would serve them anything to add her into this.
Unless she comes back in Ahsoka, I could see her being part of the bad guys in the Ahsoka series.
Having her be an Inquisitor in Ahsoka's reign would make a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But we still don't know the timeline of what Ahsoka is actually going to be in, so that one's kind of a toss-up.
Last one. Connection to other Disney shows.
I think it'd be dumb for them not to use this as a lead into the next series that they do, which is why I feel like Ahsoka is going to show up.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most likely to happen. Some type of tease to.
Yeah. Maybe not a direct like interaction with Obi-Wan.
Actually, no, we talked about this, and I think I leaned more towards a tease to Andor than Ahsoka.
I mean,
that one actually makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah. I mean, having seen Book of Boba Fett, I wouldn't be surprised if the finale is just a Grogu and Mandalorian episode. So
that was it's just another premiere episode for Mando season 3. Yeah,
I think at this point in the timeline, Din is probably still pretty young in the Mandalorian side of things.
But so it's a flash forward. It's a flash forward with.
They're watching the adventures of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Leia on the holotube.
There you go.
You just pull back and see Mando and Grogu just eating.
Or maybe he's a bounty hunter at this point, and he tracks down a Jedi of some kind or something.
Sure,
I don't know, but that'd actually be the interesting show, is the bounty hunter that's actually out catching Jedi, not related to the Inquisitors at all. And
all right, so
seeing how he handles it.
That's that. One more thing I want to show, and then we could talk about whatever you want to talk about to wrap up. Star Wars Only Twitter thread dropped this the other day that according to their what they found out, the length of the finale episode is 1 hour 33 minutes. Now this is
I'd hope so actually.
Okay, but this is with a caveat. This is based on some theater that puts that can't remember where this is from, but it's based on the theater showing, and it's supposed to also include a Q&A. So I would almost bet that this is supposed to be including a Disney presented Q&A, that the episode might be closer to an hour and then 33 minutes of Q&A. I would hope that it's a longer finale.
That's a short Q&A for an official event, like a half hour to 40 minutes.
Well, I mean, I would love an hour and a half finale, and so far they have not officially said it. But
we're gonna find out here in 5 hours. So,
what do you guys think? That you think we'll have a regular sized episode or an extended sized episode?
I'm hoping for an extended episode.
I'd bank on an extended as well.
I would hope so. All right. Well, going back to just us, we haven't really talked about Reva. What are your all thoughts on Reva? Has your thoughts changed over the course of the first 5 episodes? I think it's known that there's a lot of hate for her and a lot of hate for the actress out there. What are your thoughts?
I don't have any hate for her. It's just her character was exactly what I expected to see. And her character, to a certain point, like she reminded me of Trilla from the Force, or from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. To where she was like the tortured Inquisitor. She was a former Padawan, and like she could be turned. That's not what I wanted to see in an Inquisitor in this show. Like I wanted to see like the ruthless fuck who's just like out to kill Jedi and that's it. But to see like, I personally, I don't feel like we needed the connection to her and the Purge and being like, oh, like I have PTSD about what Anakin did, so I'm gonna try and get back at him. Knowing who he was, even when she was a child, as one of the more powerful Jedi in the entire Jedi Order, you would think that she would have had more smarts to go from there. And knowing who he is as Vader, as like this crazy powerful dude, like I figure that her plan would have been better. It felt loose. But if you really wanted to make an argument, you could say that the other Inquisitors were making it very apparent who she was. She's like too rash. She was, she didn't think things out.
Like, or even Obi-Wan said that some former Jedis have gone on to be Inquisitors, so it's not like she's the only one.
I felt like they could have done better with her character, but that certainly doesn't have anything to do with her actress as a person. And I personally didn't see any of the stuff that was coming out about, like I didn't see any blowback about her. I didn't see anything about people freaking out, but I saw the messages that Ewan McGregor and other people in the Star Wars universe were talking about. And at first I was just like, is this just like, what's going, like, where is this coming from? I hadn't even seen I hadn't seen shit about it until those statements came out.
Yeah. It was another Rose Tico.
Yeah,
incident.
but whatever she was going through certainly isn't deserved by what happened to her in the show. If you want to shit on anybody, you need to shit on the writers about how they handled her character.
Alan?
Yeah, it like the fact that people are like, oh, I hate this character, like I don't like her at all. She's the villain. You're not supposed to like her.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole point.
I think it's sad that like going into the show, I was like, I know the fanboys are going to be upset about something, and
every time
this was like a new extreme for them. Like the fact that the official Star Wars account had to say something on Twitter, Ewan McGregor had to come out and say something. Like, I'm glad that they're being proactive about it.
They didn't do that for Rose Tico, which is interesting. They did,
and I think they learned from that experience.
I don't think they were prepared for the Rose Tico incident. Like I mean, they hadn't had, like, to my recollection, we'd never seen the fandom jump on a character like that before. So I don't think they were ready for it.
No, well, Jar Jar, but social
media
wasn't a thing then.
Yeah.
I think they were more prepared for the backlash this time around.
Jar Jar was deserved. That's
yeah.
why they're like, yo,
and that was a CGI character that was less going after the actual.
Yeah.
The actor was more behind the scenes stuff, but
the actor didn't get specific like social media DMs that were like racist and horrible or anything like that.
But as far as Reva the character goes, I was kind of surprised by the whole I'm actually doing this for revenge against him storyline. Like, I played Fallen Order, but it's been a while.
I have a very strong connection to that game.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a play, like I did an entire playthrough. You can find that on our channel, where I did commentary throughout it. And then when there were cutscenes, I was dead quiet so you guys could get the story. There were a lot of connections between this show and that game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bugging me, especially after seeing a BD droid in Boba Fett. I was like, oh, okay. Are they hinting towards making this canon? And then we get this show where they go to the Fortress Inquisitorius. There is a break in one of the underwater tunnels, and the room floods, and a Jedi is responsible for it. Like, again, felt like a direct like thing. And oh man, there was another scene that felt like the same damn thing.
Obi-Wan swimming.
No, we'd seen that before.
Well, no, like him swimming into the base though, because that's how.
Oh well, yeah, that's how he gets in the
Well,
face.
yeah, that was it looked like the same damn room. And
Yeah.
you would think that there would be proper like the fact that they were like the building doesn't have any security because who'd be crazy enough to do it. I was like, it's been fucking done. It was
Yeah.
5 years ago. It was 5 years ago. Now you got to put another 0 on the accident calendar.
Yeah.
Like shit. There was never
Did
more.
you have
there was
other
never
things
more
to
than
say about Riva, Alan?
Yeah.
Not really. I liked how the reveal that Vader was playing her the whole time as well, and like had the Grand Inquisitor just waiting in his ship. Like, I can't wait for this evil reveal. Like,
to what end though? Like that to like because it wasn't like a grand plot thing because like they could have done that without faking his death or anything.
Well,
like,
this is
weak.
This is how I felt about that because I agree. I believe that some of her deliveries, especially like the scene where she shows up and finds Flea and his goons, passed out. I believe that some of those could have been like, let's do another take of that. I think there's clear instances of that. I think overall though, I do like her character. I do like her as an actress. I think she was great in Queen's Gambit. I think there are scenes where she does better in this show. And I did call it from the beginning that she was the girl in the beginning scene. I do like, however, though, that she is out to get Vader, but at the same time, she's just angry at everybody. She doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
She's not secretly on Obi-Wan's side. And I did like that Vader even says it. Obi-Wan used her. Like, he straight up, everybody, including myself, was waiting for him to pop out and help her at the end of that episode, and he does not. He left her. And I think even she was waiting on him popping out and helping her, and Vader was like, nah, girl, he used you. And I did like that. In terms of the reveal with the Grand Inquisitor, I think I think it was kind of basically hinted that they just saw the drive in her, and so they allowed her to think that obstacles were removed until she served her purpose, and then they're like, "Yeah, no, we played you. We didn't really, believe you. We knew who you were all along, and we just let you go where you as far as you could go."
It was a weak reveal for a lot of reasons. One, anybody who'd seen Rebels knew that it wasn't a permanent death. Two,
a lot of people haven't seen animated.
That's true, but two, like there wasn't really any impact to it because we didn't like anybody who
also,
hadn't seen
everybody
Rebels
that had seen Rebels was calling this show out for breaking canon. So a lot of people believed it.
Oh, that's just because they were too stupid to continue watching the show.
Yeah.
It felt like a weak part of the plot. It wasn't necessary to me. Like it really wasn't. But yeah, I think it would have had more impact if she had been dealing with the Grand Inquisitor for most of this time. And you know what, that'll get me into my tirade of what I would have done. And we all know how long those could go on for.
I think it should, like the reveal shows that Vader's been using her this whole time because she's been able to draw out Kenobi, something that no one's been able to do for the last 10 years. And I think he's been aware of what her plan is for a while, but it got him to Kenobi. So I think just because of that, that's why he went along with this. That's why he was hiding the Grand Inquisitor from her and giving her the fake promotion. I think it just shows like a little bit of a political strategic side to Vader that we don't really get to see when it's usually just force chokes and lightsabers. So,
but I did like him versus Riva. That felt much like a lion playing with its prey. Like
that was prime fucking Vader, and we needed more of that. Like, that was excellent.
Just the whole like, oh, no, I'm not just gonna push you away. I'm gonna move your lightsaber up just a little bit. Then I'm gonna push you away.
Dude, when he broke her saber in half and threw the other half, be like, all right, you ain't getting through me with the Force. Like, let me just show you how much I'm going to destroy you. Mm-hmm. Like, at least entertain me. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, that was the coldest Vader moment that we've seen in a while. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Alan, thoughts?
No, I need to go back and rewatch that whole scene because as soon as he pulled the ship out of the air and destroyed it, I was like, oh man, like this is just perfect. And
I was also happy we finally got that. We finally got to see Vader do that.
Yeah, Force Unleashed.
We've seen it in Force Unleashed. We saw Rey kind of doing it. Another, Rey can do everything a moment, but we've yet to see Vader do that. And so when he did it, I was like, finally, we see Vader show that kind of force. And then if that wasn't enough, as Alan just said, he pulls it down and his anger rips that shit apart.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And then the other ship took off remarkably fast.
Yep.
For a big freighter, big freighter full of fucking people.
Yeah.
Why wasn't everybody on that ship already? Like,
because you need suspense. Do you not know screenwriting at Disney Plus?
You could have had suspense with them on the ship, hearing a bunch of fucking craziness going on outside. Like,
at the same time, though, it's a panic. Like, everyone's panicking and trying to figure out what to do. So
they all need to be there to support Leia.
I'm not letting you guys. I'm not letting this one go. It was a dumb move.
Okay. It's a dumb move.
It was a dumb line in the script that nobody was like, hey, maybe they should be in the boat already. Or like they're like, no, it won't be a big deal. Fucking is a big deal. Okay, it fucking was a big deal. It was the stupidest move that I had seen out of any of them so far. I was like, well, we don't have a choice. We got to go out this way. It's
people.
Like, get on the fucking ship then.
They're not smart.
Well, here's hoping episode 6 of Kenobi is not just them slowly running away from a Star Destroyer in that freighter. So,
I know. God, I know. So that would be terrible.
And I don't want to see any casino scenes either. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, did you guys pick up on the references to each in each episode to the corresponding episode from the Skywalker saga?
Yeah,
the Skywalker saga. What?
Yeah, they were sticking to it in the rhyming fashion that George Lucas explains.
So episode 1, there's references to episode 1 in part 1 of Kenobi, references to episode 2 and part 2, and so on and so forth. Did you pick up on any of those?
I guess I wasn't looking. Give me an example.
So in part 1, you have Luke on Tatooine pretending he's pod racing. So that's the obvious one there. Part 2, you have the like city underworld landscape that you first are introduced to in episode 2.
Oh, with spice and death sticks and everything. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Episode 3, it ends with a duel between Vader and Obi-Wan.
And somebody's burned.
Somebody's burned.
Interesting. Okay.
Part 4 is breaking into a place to rescue Princess Leia.
Okay.
And I forget what the big one was for part 5. I think it's the Imperial invasion and breaking out of the base. Like
while Vader is walking down the hallway towards them, seeing them fly off. Yeah, I saw a lot of people like, why didn't he grab the Millennium Falcon then in Empire Strikes Back? Just stop trying to fucking nitpick every single little fucking thing. But I do like that. That is cool. It does kind of crack me up that the show is 6 episodes instead of 9. It kind of feels like even they wish they didn't have 9 episodes to reference. They'd rather just stick with 6.
So to be fair, Obi-Wan doesn't really have any influence or presence in the sequel trilogy. So
yeah,
they could have.
Well, he does say Rey a few times.
Yeah,
he says Rey. Yeah. So if with that trend, is there anything from episode 6 that you would want to like from Return of the Jedi you'd want to see referenced on Obi-Wan?
Yeah, it's gonna be the duel. It's gonna be a duel, and like it's all gonna come full circle.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have like a great fight where Obi-Wan is kind of in the like, because once again we're gonna see kind of what they foreshadowed in that last episode, where Anakin is clearly a good bit more powerful. Like you're seeing Obi-Wan is struggling a bit, but the message that Obi-Wan has for him hits him so much harder than any of the fighting does. Like there's going to be a very strong emotional pull at this point, and it's going to be Obi-Wan's kind of last lesson to him. Whether any of that kind of like ties into future stuff. I hope it doesn't. Like, I really don't want to see any further Obi-Wan content. Like, this needs to be like the last bit. I don't want a season 2 of this show.
A lot of people are still theorizing whether there is.
Yeah. What I'm
rather
hoping not to see is some sort of a hint that there's going to be another Obi-Wan series.
Mm-hmm. I could see a Jabba cameo. I could see a Jabba cameo in, especially if we're going back to Tatooine.
I think if we see anything, we might see Lars give Luke that toy that Obi-Wan tried to give him.
Sure.
That could be a thing, because that's the little thing that he's playing with in A New Hope.
Right. Like, what do you think, Alan?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Warwick Davis cameo, because he likes to show.
Has he not been in here already? Like, he's been sneaky with some of his cameos.
Well, I think they've been filming. They were filming Willow series at the. I was
gonna say they've got to carry on to Willow. Have you guys all seen Willow? Was that like a big part of you guys' childhood?
It wasn't. I'm saving it for my podcast.
Oh my god, that was you haven't seen it yet?
No.
Oh,
I'm surprised, because I loved Val Kilmer, and I planned to watch it before the series, but I never thought it
straight up do
good.
a watch. That should be our next watch party.
Okay. I never thought it looked good, and I'll be honest, I didn't think the trailer for the new series looks that great.
Honestly, I don't know if it is good, because it was a big part of my childhood, and so were a lot of really shit movies.
Yeah.
So
I also always confused that one with what was the other one? Legend. I haven't seen either of those two, and I always confused the two. I was like, I thought Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer was in a fantasy movie together, and it was one of those titles for the longest time.
I think that if you like kind of like the cheesiness of sort of like the 90s era films, because it feels very early 90s.
It always looked labyrinthy to me.
Based on my memory, it's gonna feel very early 90s, and it's gonna have Val Kilmer just being Val Kilmer. No, we should definitely do a watch party of that. I would do that like next, actually, because I'm pretty sure it's on Disney Plus. I'm pretty sure it's
going back to Kenobi while we finish this off.
Yeah.
What do you think? There's obviously a tease at the end of episode 5 that Reva might be going back to Tatooine. Do you think the majority of the final episode is going to be on Tatooine? Certainly, I wouldn't think it would be Vader versus Kenobi on Tatooine. That doesn't make any sense. But do you think what without getting too deep into let's theorize about the finale? What do you guys expect?
I don't know that we're gonna see Reva like alive again. I feel like she might.
Oh, she ain't dead.
She might be out with that information. I mean, who knows? I don't really know. I don't know what they're gonna do with
a Reva show. Honestly, it kind of feels like unless she dies.
So here's a question. Here's a question to both of you. Do you feel like Vader knew that Luke was his son, like prior to A New Hope? Do you feel like he knew that was going on? Like, because in Empire Strikes Back, there is a mention of the son of Skywalker. Do you feel like they knew about all of that beforehand, and this little snippet that they put in there is a tease to how he knew about the children, knew he had children already? Maybe not knew exactly who they were just yet, but knew that he had children. Because he knew Padme was pregnant. Like,
Alan,
in the Darth Vader comics that Disney released in 2015, at the end of Volume 1, Boba Fett Vader sends Boba Fett to hunt down find out about this guy who blew up the Death Star. He doesn't know who he is, doesn't know his name. Boba Fett comes back to him after visiting the homestead and says, all I could find was a name, Skywalker. And Vader cracks the windshield of a Star Destroyer and says, I have a son. That's when he finds out that Luke is his son.
Right.
Yeah, I never felt like he knew Luke was son until Empire Strikes Back, and he never knew he had a daughter until he found it in Luke's mind in that pivotal scene in Return of the Jedi. I know he doesn't know he has twins, but I think they could play around with when he figures out that he has
knew he had
a son
child at least
based on the on-screen stuff. If you technically, would that
because
be
they
canon since Disney put that comic out, Alan? Is that what
they've reneged on shit like that all the time though. Like haven't like
if it's not on screen,
so everything
it's easier to do it. Yeah.
So everything, they've been doing a really good job of keeping what's in the comics canon. With Black, it might be. If you show me it,
I don't think it's this.
No, that's the second run of Vader. The Vader 2015 series. He finds out. As far as canon goes, anything post 2014, 2015 is canon if it's released by Disney. So that's comic books, that's novels, that's video games, animated TV shows. I've been seeing a lot of conversations about Rebels not being canon. It's canon. So anything
like clearly they're following the establishments of those pretty close.
So I think
I just don't see Vader being on Tatooine in Episode 6. I think if I were to predict whatever happens, if there's a final Obi-Wan Kenobi Vader thing, it'll be somewhere else. And then when Obi-Wan finally goes back to Tatooine, he might have to briefly deal with Reva, who's there. I think she might be the tag at the end of the episode and not the main part of the episode.
I think
Tatooine is the last place Anakin Skywalker is ever going to step foot on again.
Right, I don't see
along with that and Naboo.
But clearly Reva's going there.
I think absolutely. I agree with you. Reva goes there, and I think that she meets her end with Uncle Owen staking out the vermin on his farm.
Oh, that would be great. If Owen killed her, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. That's what I think.
That would be foreshadowed badass. From the first. Was that the first episode? Yeah.
That tracks.
I hate Jedi. I killed Jedi. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
She's not a Jedi, so
that's true. That's true.
But he isn't going to give a fuck about the distinction. That'd be pretty sick. And I'm actually going to be a little angry if you're right, because now I'm expecting it. Now I'm going to be like waiting for it to happen.
Well, I agree with you, Seth. I pray to God that we have a finale, that it's not a tease for season 2. I've seen a lot of people today saying, oh, in that Q&A, they're going to announce season 2. God, I really hope not. I don't want another Obi-Wan adventure. I think this is enough. I think I did say initially that, man, I kind of hope that the whole Leia thing is only the first couple episodes. But now that we've seen it, and now that we've seen the range of this kid, and how
carrying the show,
and how they've woven in, and we've got a lot more Vader than I thought we were going to get, and we've got a lot of emoting from Kenobi. I do like this, and I think if this was his only off-planet adventure before he really digs down deep to protect Luke, I think maybe this would be enough, especially if Reva gets close enough, because they zoomed in on Luke at the end of episode 5. If Reva gets on that planet, whether it's Kenobi that stops her or Owen that stops her, I could see that being like, Obi, you locked down, you're not going off planet again at all,
right.
And that would be where we leave it. And then we pick back up in A New Hope. I don't need anything after that.
Maybe she meets him and she sees him as like the hope for like she has kind of like the same thought that Darth Maul has. It's a twisted mentality, but when Obi-Wan kills him in Rebels, spoiler alert, he says that he asks if Luke is the chosen one, and he says he will avenge us. It's like Reva may have a similar feeling,
perhaps,
and be like, oh, well, he's actually the best hope to get rid of this guy. So who knows?
I completely understand where you guys are coming from for not wanting a season 2 of this. I think there is probably a story that they can tell with Obi-Wan on Tatooine, with him training with the Qui-Gon's ghost and dealing with threats to Luke and whatnot. I'd be happy with one season. I'll be happy with the second season if there's a story to tell there.
If Reva lives, I think we're going to see that.
Yeah.
I can't see a second season with Reva being
if
the villain.
If Reva lives, I think we're going to see a second season. Whether she is the villain or not, maybe she isn't the only one that. Maybe she shares the information that she finds, and they have to deal with that. It's like they had one season with Leia, and now they have the next season with Luke, and Luke just never finds out about it.
Here's my pitch for season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it takes a little bit from Book of Boba Fett.
Well, it's gonna be tough because we haven't seen the finale for this one either.
Yeah. So you have Qui-Gon training Obi-Wan on Tatooine as the basis of the show. And through that training, you get flashbacks to the Clone Wars or between episodes 1 and 2. And you de-age for real this time Ewan McGregor and Anakin. And you make it like an anthology series and tell different stories of these characters and their relationship, and just do it through that, like through his training and like flashbacks.
That just feels like an anthology series, though, and not a second season.
It feels like an epilogue. It was like,
I don't know. I like what we've gotten. I like that we had at least one flashback scene between them. I was waiting. I was like, you can't tell me that they brought back Hayden Christensen just to stand on a distant hill for 5 seconds and then turn away. I'm glad that we got at least one scene with him. I wonder if we'll get another scene with him or if that's going to be it. But even if that's it, that brought a lot of weight to the show. It justified the show, or it brought a lot of like credence to the show. It brought it up to another level seeing that scene. So I did appreciate that. And I also appreciated that we got more scenes of him killing kids because like they're still very committed to that. Like, yeah,
the timing wasn't great, but if we don't get an Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, I would absolutely love to see a Darth Vader show.
I would too. I feel like they're setting
us
up for some type of Reeva
They have to at this point.
They really, really do. But as long as they don't mess it up. But if it's just 6 episodes of him being menacing, if it's them recreating one of the iconic scenes from that comic you just picked up, Seth, there's an iconic scene where that dude's surrounded and he's just like, I ain't afraid of you guys. You know?
Yeah, it was like if they want to pull inspiration from anything, pulling from that comic would be the fucking play, and I'll watch that shit.
But he is great in this. I did really appreciate the side-by-side scene of him stabbing Reva as a kid versus him stabbing Reva as an adult. You saw Hayden's face, then you saw Vader's face. I just, I feel like it's only a matter of time before they screw up Vader, but so far they every time they bring him in, whether it's in Rogue One or something else, they've done a fairly good job with keeping him menacing, and that's just great.
If they're going to be careful with any character, it is Darth fucking Vader. Mm-hmm. It is Darth Vader.
You'd have to really work to screw him up. But
all right, here's my pitch for how they could have fixed this show.
Oh my god!
And I'm going to be quick. I'm going to be quick about this. Yeah, no, I'm going to keep this at 5 minutes. So we're at an hour and 28 minutes and 45 seconds here. So here we go. All right, first episode doesn't change. We're in good shape there. Second episode, it is still not revealed to Obi-Wan that Anakin is Vader or anything like that, which I think was actually episode 3. Episode 2, he learns that he's alive. Great. That trauma kicks in. That PTSD is actually there. We get a proper, in whatever episode order this is, we get a proper chase scene where Leia is actually shown to be a lot more resourceful in how she gets away rather than just being able to run
slide
slightly
other
through
branches,
some shrubbery.
Seth. She can slide.
I know. She's a natural
under carriages and stuff.
I get it. She's a natural athlete. Shut up. Yes. I'm on very limited time right now. It's like, we really needed to see more of actual Hayden Christensen in here, not de-aged, not anything like that, as something that Obi-Wan is seeing in his head as far as dealing with that trauma and being terrified that he was actually seeing him. Vader was revealed Vader and Obi-Wan met up just a little bit too early. I understand that if they were going with the route to where they're going to have like each episode rhyme with with part of the prequel and original trilogy, that's great. Could have done it in other ways. Vader and Obi-Wan met up just a little too fast. This show should have absolutely been, all right, Obi-Wan, I need to get Leia out of here, while it's also a vicious game of cat and mouse trying to catch Obi-Wan, and they're always getting close. That level of suspense could have been fucking unreal. And then the duel that they have, where they have kind of like their first interaction that ended up being a little bit too early in here, that actually happens during the evacuation that's going on. We keep that plot point. Why the fuck not? And so while Obi-Wan is doing all that stuff, he's actually gotten into that fight in order to hold Vader up so he does not fuck with that ship. And he gets a little burnt up. He has some sort of intervening action, and that is when Reva decides to reveal that she's actually trying to kill Vader. Doesn't matter. He smokes her because he's fucking Darth Vader. Obi-Wan uses that as his moment to escape. He gets onto the ship. He fucks off. And then in the final episode, that's where we're like, okay, he's tracked him down. It's a longer episode, and then they come into their all right, we're gonna fight again. That's my biggest gripe, is that they had Vader and Obi-Wan meet up so goddamn fast in this series that it was really like it was like, okay, where are we gonna go from there? And we're at that point again at the end of this episode. It's like, okay, he got Leia out, so why do they come together again? It's like, what, like, and it seems like they got a clean escape. It was just like, okay, so basically the only plot point that they have left at this point is to be like, all right, Reva knows about Luke now. Big trouble. I was like, no. That is not how it should have been. Like, we should have drawn out the suspense of the cat and mouse game that's going on. They didn't do that. That's my biggest gripe. It was like they tried to make Reva too much of an element into this show, when the biggest thing that they were doing was talking about how amazing it was going to be to have Vader and Obi-Wan in this series duking it out. And the build up to it has not really been focused on Vader versus Obi-Wan. It's been Obi-Wan and Reva. And that's my gripe, is that they spent a huge amount of the marketing being like, oh, this is going to be an epic rematch between Vader and Obi-Wan. Still could be that, but so far that hasn't really been what the lead up has been. It's like we had kind of like this false, this red herring about Reva, which she isn't dead. Like, she's not dead. So that red herring is still alive. Yeah, it's flopping around on the ground in the dirt right now, but it's still alive. Mm-hmm. And all this emotional buildup between Vader and Obi-Wan is now going to be jam-packed into what might be an extra long episode. I really hope it is an hour and 30 minutes. That makes a lot of sense. It's a really short Q&A episode that it would have been if they were like, hey, it's going to be after all that. But that's my biggest gripe. And I did that in less than 5 minutes. You're welcome.
I will say, like, I can absolutely see where you're coming from with them meeting up too early. But I
they
still
did
think
they did a good job given the subject matter. He's still scary as fuck, and it's great to see that he has, like, they didn't pull any punches showing his hatred for Obi-Wan at the same time.
Yeah,
but it was too quick.
But at the same time, Vader is pulling his punches there, because that is just to establish where Vader is seeing how weak Obi-Wan is, and he wants him up to full strength before he does what he wants to actually do to him.
I don't know about that. I think he's perfectly content to kill him in his weakened state and ridicule him relentlessly for it, because that is kind of how he always viewed Obi-Wan, as less powerful than he is. Mm-hmm. And so if anything, seeing him like that is just reaffirming what he always believed.
Fair enough.
And like actually having it be true in that situation. It's like,
well, I can just say this, and I know we need to close this off. I know we it seems like we all have some things that we think could have done better about the show, but at the end of Boba Fett, I really didn't care to talk about it. I thought that show was a bunch of missed opportunities and a waste of time. Yeah. I think this show is still more entertaining than it is flawed, and I'm very happy with it. I think if I saw this as younger, I would have loved it just as much as I loved it now.
The one thing that they won't have to do with this show is say that it's part of the Ahsoka line or the part of the Rebels line or something like that. Like where they took Boba Fett and they're like, oh, it's just another chapter of The Mandalorian. It's like, no, this is Obi-Wan's show. Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of Leia's show too, but this is definitely Obi-Wan's show.
But to be fair, he is prominent. I think we talked about that too, about how
He's been in every episode so far.
Yeah, well, and yeah, like what was my I hope they don't pull a Hawkeye, and they have not pulled a Hawkeye.
They've not pulled
Kenobi is very much the lead of this show. He's very much the best part of this show. I think his acting is the best part of this show, and I really do appreciate them bringing it back. I also appreciate the side characters being decent. We got Ice Cube's kids in there. We got we got the Mando's fellow actor from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
She was great. I like that we have these other things going, but Obi-Wan is still very much the focus, and they at least did really well with that. And I'm happy with this show. Of course, there's always things they could do better, but I'm very happy, and I just hope they nail the landing.
I got
recognized any. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I have one question for you guys before the finale. Do you think they're going to kill Luke?
Yeah, I think that's very much. I think they were hinting towards that.
Yeah.
That they're going to kill Luke. Yes.
Where
That's what I keep from? I just keep telling people like I think they're going to kill Luke Skywalker in the finale of Obi-Wan.
Dude, that sounds like something that if I was watching this series with my parents or something like that, that sounds like a question my mom would ask.
Yeah.
No, Luke's in like the whole fucking rest of the movie.
You wouldn't see it coming. You would not see it coming.
You would not
that's for
see it.
sure.
That's true. And if you took that to Twitter right now, you would be met with people that believed you were being genuine.
You'd get a few extra thousand followers off of the fucking media.
I'll tweet it right now. I will tweet it.
Right? I have a final question, because I didn't, but I imagine that there were. Did anybody recognize any celebrity voices out of any of the stormtroopers? Because normally when they want to do a sneaky cameo, that's what they do. They find a celebrity friend or something like that, and they stick them in the stormtrooper armor.
I did not. However, I could have sworn that alien that was that betrayed them, that was driving I could have swore that was Seth Rogen.
It sounded so much like Seth Rogen,
but it's not.
At the same time, it didn't.
It's the Scrubs guy.
It's Zach Braff.
Zach Braff, yeah. And now that I hear Zach Braff in my head, I can hear him in that episode. But I was like, did they get Seth Rogen to be a part of this? And nope, they got him to be a part of the boys. But
Seth Rogen's been showing up in all kinds of shit. If that had been the case, that'd have been like, damn, he's in everything. He's in fucking
just everything could use a little sprinkle of Rogen, I guess.
There were.
Are you saying there was a celebrity voice that you think exists, or you were just wondering if we'd seen any celebrity voice?
I imagine that there are stormtroopers that are there's at least one stormtrooper or something that's being played by a celebrity, because that's normally how they sneak them in there. You know, they're like, oh, I want to be in Star Wars, but I don't really want a big part. You don't have to pay me. And they're like, all right, cool. We're going to make you a stormtrooper. We'll give you a speaking role, but nobody's going to understand it because we're going to modulate the voice. And I was just like, I didn't recognize any, like, I felt like I should have, but like, I didn't want that to be like this obvious thing where you guys were going to be like, yeah, of course it was this guy. How'd you miss that? So I'm glad that you guys didn't recognize anybody either. That made me feel,
I think
feel a lot better.
I think the weird thing about the voice cameos is that they're like, this was in production during COVID, so they probably didn't have access to as many people as they would have if it hadn't been.
Right.
Like, it'd be easier to get somebody into a studio for a few lines of ADR without a pandemic, but filming during the height of a pandemic in Europe and in California, like, I'm sure there were limitations on how many cameos they could get.
Yeah, but I think that the year that they took to rewrite, it wasn't a full year, but they took considerable amount of time to rewrite when they were going to be filming, helped, because there's a lot of stuff coming out now that feels less like it was filmed in the pandemic than stuff that was coming out a year ago.
Yeah.
A year ago, It was like, oh my God, it's just people standing a certain distance apart in one room. There's no crowd scenes. It's a lot of indoor stuff. You could see it in every single production. It's getting less, and I feel it was less in this show.
Like that Tatooine scene where Reva was having a standoff with everybody. That was a pandemic scene because everybody was pretty well spread out during all that.
But
Which is dumb because they were out. Which is dumb because they could have been out in the sun, been completely fine. But
yeah. Well,
Okay.
is any other final thoughts? I think we've covered enough.
I think we've drawn this out pretty effectively long. Like we're almost
really
past the actual
runtime
of the show.
This before I went to bed and woke up on Christmas morning to Obi-Wan Kenobi Final.
Yeah, you lucky fuck. You like as soon as the show comes out, like I get a message from you in the morning. They're like, "Oh, well, it was like this." I'm like, shut the fuck up, man. Like,
I don't even wake up at the 3 a.m. or whenever it comes out. I just get up an hour early for work, and I'm like, in bed, push play.
Yeah. I need to start. I need to start doing that, but I have to watch them all with Cece, and I don't want to skip out on them and watch them like a second time with her. So I got to wait until like sometimes days before I can catch up with this stuff. I will be catching the final episode tomorrow on time.
Okay.
So if we want to do something on like Thursday or something like that, we could.
Sure.
Well, since you brought it up, on my show, You Have to Watch This Podcast, we are talking about the Obi-Wan finale. So if you two would like to join us, you are welcome to.
Ooh, that's tempting.
You know what? That actually works out good because that way you were guests on ours, we'll guest on yours. Like we'll spread it out over multiple channels, kind of help out.
I love his You Have to Watch This Podcast. They do a lot of really great stuff. They just did Top Gun in preparation for Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't gone over to that podcast, it's a good podcast.
If you'll have us, I would love to do something like that, and then we'll have you back over here on the Nerfherders side, and we'll do a Willow watch party.
Sounds good.
Hey, there you go. Do you think we'll get I'm sorry to keep on sprinkling things in. Do you think we'll get a Duel of the Fates music drop in the finale if there's a fight?
I think there may be references to it,
like just music cues, because it was definitely. I mean, they definitely put that out in the teaser. You know, I'd almost be sad if we don't get a little cue.
We'll see a subtle nod to it in the music. I don't know if they'll be that blatant about it because it's very different. But
I think we'll probably get a few notes from that. I would also expect to see Battle of the Heroes pop up in there as well.
I think we'll probably get a good portion of the music. I can't remember the theme name, but it was the music that they were playing during the Purge.
Because Order 66. Yeah.
During Order 66.
They played that in the other trailer. What is it? Is it Order 66 theme or is it something else?
It might be. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I don't know the soundtrack names that well.
Anakin's Betrayal. That's what the name of the song is.
Yeah.
And they played that in one of the trailers, and I was like, oh, God, I love that song. I love that song more than Duel of the Fates, honestly.
They played that during the Order 66 scene in Fallen Order, and I was bawling the entire fucking time. I was trying to play through that, and I was losing my shit.
Didn't they also play it over part of the finale of
in Clone Wars? You goddamn right they did, and it made me cry then too.
Yeah,
because it just fits. It just fits the trauma of that scene.
Well, I mean, it was happening at the same damn time, so it made perfect sense for them to do that. Like it was all in that moment. Like it was great.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for this very impromptu get together. Well, we literally threw this together like 15 minutes before we came on, and I just wanted to talk to somebody. So
and then I delayed it another 15 minutes to eat.
That's fine.
Hey,
I always know when you're upset. I always know when you're upset.
Alan wasn't responding until you delayed it, so I think your delay brought us Alan.
I always know when you're upset though, because like I'll send something out and I'll just get okay as a response of like, oh, I struck a fucking nerve.
No, I was just busy. I was busy working on the overlays.
He was so ready for 8 o'clock, and I was just like, hey, can we push it back 15 minutes? Okay, like
you're fine.
Oh,
you sound great. It's nice to hear your voice. I'm glad you're feeling better. Alan, it was a pleasure seeing you again.
Yes.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Alan, where can people find you real quick?
You can find my show, You Have to Watch This Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. We're also on Twitch, Facebook, and the Rum Runners Podcast Network.
Great.
Hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Don't forget to hit us up on social media. Be a part of the conversation. Let us know what you guys thought of Kenobi. Let us know what you guys think is going to happen. Is there going to be a season 2? What did you like? What did you not like? Give it all to us. And until next time, have a good one.